million times, but I missed the part where it said the sting of death is sin.
Right.
That stood out like a sore thumb all of a sudden to me, and I was like, the sting of death is sin. What? And then I started looking at what that is, and I can just say, since I saw that, I don't know how many years ago I preached that message, since I've seen that, I've seen my whole life change. Mm-hmm. I've seen things in my life change. I've seen the way I view things change. I've seen like the peace that I have change, anxiety gone, fear about certain things gone, worry about certain things gone. Mm-hmm. It's just understanding the power of the resurrection. It's like Paul said that the preaching of the God, it's foolish for men to think that through preaching they can find salvation from the death that's in the world. That's foolish to them. But what I'm starting to realize is the more people see that death has been conquered in the resurrection, the more their subconscious will grab onto that. Mm-hmm. Their mind doesn't even need to understand how it works out. Right. It has an effect inside of the heart that is like far-reaching, that will start healing us from all manners of things. And what the devil wants us to not talk about? He doesn't want us to talk about how the enemy that is death has been defeated. Yeah. He doesn't want us talking about that, because if we're talking about that, then we're going to find ourselves set free from iniquity. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be laboring and toiling for life. We're not going to be trusting in our works for life, which is his system. And then if we're not laboring and toiling for life, then we're not going to be in bondage to his life and his kingdom. We're going to be free from it. And then we're not going to find all those things that Romans talks about. And it's like Mo just said, when Paul lists all those things in Romans, he says, for the wrath of God has been revealed from heaven. Before he says that, it says the wrath of God has been revealed from heaven. Right? Against all unrighteousness of men. Right? Well, when you look up that word unrighteousness there, it's not talking about the fruit that would come forth. It's talking about the root. What is the unrighteousness of men? That we thought we could be exalted by our own works. We thought we could be clothed by our own works. That's the righteousness of men, right? That's what we thought, like Cain. That's the righteousness of men. It's really unrighteous. Yeah. The unrighteousness of men you see born in Cain when he wants to till the ground to bring forth fruit and then bring that to God and think that he's going to be exalted that way. Well, man was made from the soil. Man was made from the ground. And so Cain tilling the ground would be the same as us tilling our dying bodies, trying to bring forth the fruit of God's life and thinking we're going to be exalted that way. Yeah. So Paul comes and says the wrath of God was revealed from heaven against the idea that you could be justified or exalted by the works of your own hands. Mm-hmm. So God has rejected that way as the way unto life. Yes. He's come and told us that way can't give you life. It's actually killing you. Now, we see his rejection of that way as the way unto life in all those who trust in their own works. Because when a person trusts in their own works, then we see all those things come out of them that Paul outlines in Romans 1.
And that's what Satan wants you to do. He wants you to trust in your own works. And look, with Adam, at least Adam was tempted to sin. Satan was never tempted to sin. And Satan hates the fact that he had to tempt man to sin and then lie to man to try to, I don't know what, exalt himself. I don't know what Satan's doing.
You don't know what Satan's doing, yeah. But
Satan wasn't tempted. He fell without temptation.
No, he was tempted. I mean, not in the way you're thinking of temptation, but in the way that Satan. Listen, temptation is just the result of believing that you're separated from something that's needed for life or God-likeness. You're separated from some good thing. You come behind. The moment you think you come behind in something, you're going to be tempted to try to get it or to do what is needed to be where you're supposed to be, right? Like Jesus was tempted when he was hanging on the cross by the weakness of his flesh dying. That weak flesh he saw dying was tempting him to try to preserve his life.
He overcame.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. But that's what temptation really is. So Romans 1, when he runs down all the things, what that is that's just Paul revealing we know God has rejected the idea that man can have life by their works, right? Because anytime we see a person trust in their works, we see the only thing that comes out of them is the fruit of death and not the fruit of life. Right? That's what he's doing there in Romans 1. He says the wrath of God is revealed from heaven. Notice how it doesn't say it's poured out.
No, right.
It's revealed.
Yeah.
Right? And so the wrath of God is his rejection that you can have life through your own works. Now we see that play out in all those who trust on their works for life. They find their lives taken captive by sin, and all the fruit that comes forth is unto death. Right? And then he lists all the things.
Yes.
One of the things he lists there, though, is, which word is that? Without natural affection. This is him describing those who are bound in iniquity, who trust in their own works. He says, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection. When you look at that without natural affection, what that's saying there is that the fruit that's coming out of them is inhuman. It's contrary to human beings.
Oh, wow.
It's not consistent with human beings.
That's right.
It's anti-human beings.
Absolutely.
Right? So any kind of language to describe the nature of a human as sinful is a lie from the pit of hell.
Yeah.
Paul comes and says, should a person find themselves with the fruit of death manifesting in their life, that fruit is actually contrary to the nature of human. Right? And what's unfortunate is we've used poor language to try and describe the gospel.
Exactly.
Right? We've used poor language to try to explain what's going on.
Absolutely.
And so if what you tell a person is their problem is that they have a sin nature, that's not what the Bible says. That's not a person's problem. And if you tell a person that's what their problem is, then that can't help them to see what role any of the gospel plays. They'll never be set free. They'll be all the time fighting this mythical sin nature
Exactly.
that none of the apostles or disciples ever talked about, that they never brought up. Paul never said the sting of the sin nature is sin. He never said that. He never said by one man, Adam, the sin nature came into the earth. He never said that. And the sin nature reigned over all. He never said that. He never said any of those things. You see, what we've done is we've conveniently removed the word that he did use, which tells everybody what the problem was, and we inserted sin nature there. And then what we've done with that is then gone on to teach about how humans are abundantly wicked and evil beings. And the gospel is about how God was dissatisfied with these evil, wicked human beings. And he got his dissatisfaction out on Jesus. And now, he won't take it out on you because he took it out on Jesus. And listen, that ain't the gospel. And the more we preach it from that foundation, the more powerless and empty and void it will be in people's lives.
Yes.
Right?
Amen.
But if we come and use the language that the apostles used, and see what were they thinking? Why were they thinking it? Why did they say it this way? Why were they all so enamored with the resurrection? When you start looking at that and you read what Paul laid out in Romans 6, Paul laid out the greatest exegesis of the gospel and why and all the details that were involved that could ever be fathomable to a human being. And in none of his explanation is the sin nature included.
None. Right.
Right?
Yep.
He describes the problem as death.
Yes.
He describes sin causing death to reign over all. Just as sin led to death reigning over all by one man, Adam, bringing sin and death into the earth. Another man, Jesus, has come. And by the righteousness of this one man, Jesus. What was the righteousness of this one man, Jesus? He said, I'm not going to lift a finger to preserve my life. I'm not going to try to get life from the world. I'm not going to try to get life from my own works. I'm going to rest in the Father's love for me. And when that guy rested in the Father's love for him, he died away the death that was reigning over the world.
Yes.
Right? He removed the sin of Adam that was reigning over the world. Death can no longer reign over anybody now. Right? Death can only have a hold on your life if you reject Jesus. Right? But you have to choose the death. The death just can't reign over you apart from you choosing it. Right? And so we've torn out all the power of the gospel by changing the words and putting in things that aren't there. I think it's Augustine that created the idea of the sin nature. Guess when Augustine lived? We're,
Dark ages.
we're talking somewhere between 6 and 8 centuries after the apostles. 6 or 8 centuries after the apostles, a guy comes in and starts talking the sin nature. And shapes all of the thought of Western theology. And all of the language conveniently changes from death is the enemy to the sin nature is the enemy.
Right.
Well, what's the sin nature, Phil?
Man. I'll tell you where I've been dwelling on.
Wait, hold on. Do you
Okay.
know what the sin nature is?
What I will call the sin nature is assuming the wrong identity, believing the lie that you're not who he says you are. That's
Okay.
what I would call
And
sin nature.
what about you? What's the sin nature?
What is this lie, sin nature?
What do you think the sin nature is? It's not a trick question.
I don't think we have a sin nature.
I don't think people even know what a sin nature is. And if I polled a group of pastors, I don't think any of them could actually tell you what it is they think when they say the word sin nature or what it even means, much less how it is that thing goes about bringing forth sin in you. How does the sin nature bring forth sin in you? Well, we're just evil and we're going to sin. Listen, that's no explanation.
Right.
That doesn't explain anything.
Right.
Well, if you go back and say, well, nature is an inherent
Yeah.
characteristic or capability in your life, or in who you are, then a sin nature would be an inherent
Yeah.
characteristic of who we are.
I kind of
Which is why it started.
That's right.
Wait.
It's your cardinal thinking and not
And
like
exactly.
spirit.
That's a pretty good definition if we want to allow
Sure.
the term sin nature actually exists in the biblical.
Yeah,
Right.
I've heard people say
Living in
that it's
flesh.
just simply because, right, you're human, we're gonna fall. You know, it's like.
It comes
inevitable.
naturally.
It's like, right, but that's.
Sin
it's
comes
like,
naturally.
Yeah.
Sin comes
Yeah, it's
naturally.
like just-
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Due to the sin nature of Adam, and us in the flesh. But I definitely get it to where if you're dead to that, death has no sting over you, and then you actually reign and live with the righteousness of Jesus while you're here on this earth.
But Adam didn't have a sin nature either.
I believe what's natural to human being is to live innocently before God and man.
Yeah.
That's
what's
right.
really
It's a
natural
mistaken
for
identity.
man. But
Right.
because we believe we have a sin nature, because we believe that we're under sin and that sin has control of us,
Right.
we behave that way. That's
Exactly.
That is our belief system. That's what we adopt.
That's not my belief system.
But the truth is, Jesus came to reveal to us what our true nature is. And it's when we
That's it.
believe in Jesus' testimony about who we are and what our lives are really all about and we're meant to be, innocence is then restored to who we are. And we begin to learn how to relate to others in innocence, knowing that Jesus has justified them just as he has justified us, and revealed that we are righteous in his sight.
Right. Okay.
So
What separated, to go back to your question about what sin nature is, what separated it for me? What made me go, this, was when you talked about crucifying the old man in Jesus. And I kind of went, wait a minute. It was always taking my sins and nailing them on the cross. It was always taking all my behavior that I was like, this is sinful. Ooh, look what's in me now. And let me go put that on the cross. And when you brought up the whole thing about, I was like, this is, no, my old man is the old man that believed that was his nature.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, it's not like separating my behavior out and putting it on the cross. It's taking my whole identity that I am that guy, and he buries. He goes down. You know, and if he goes down, then whatever sin that was in me, it goes with him. Just like that all goes with Christ in the grave.
It stays there.
Yeah.